On a gentle hill that rolled out like a patchwork quilt, blanketed thick with emerald grass, there nestled a small village. At night, when the world grew soft with shadow, the windows and lanterns of its cottages flickered in the distance, casting pools of yellow warmth that resembled stars, drifting in a quiet, sleeping sky. Among these cottages, one was woven more of memories than wood and straw, and it belonged to a girl named Lena. Her eyes reflected the calm, limitless surface of a still lake, and her hair, brown and fine, slipped through her aunt's fingers like spun silk each morning as it was braided. Most children in the village climbed under the covers when darkness arrived, tucking away their worries and their laughter, but Lena would not yet sleep. Instead, long after her aunt's soft good nights faded and the world seemed to close its eyes, she would quietly tiptoe up a creaking wooden ladder, emerging through a hidden hatch to the peak of the roof. Here, among the gentle slopes of thatch, woven, her aunt used to say, with more than just rushes but threads of wool and wisps of winter wind, Lena looked up. The sky above was impossibly clear. A velvet sheet washed clean by the day's last breath, scattered with stars so piercing bright it seemed she could gather them into her open palm. The moon hung in a low, golden arc, its roundness both soothing and inviting, like a honey cake saved for special celebrations. Yet far sweeter to Lena's heart than cakes or even stars was the phenomenon that called every night. A breath of wind that seemed almost to speak, flowing over the roof with 1,000 stories kept in its invisible arms. This wind, Lena always imagined, was full of secrets. It whispered ancient tales at the edge of hearing, stories too soft for grown-ups, but just the right pitch for dreaming children. As she wrapped herself in her indigo wool blanket, crafted by her aunt's loving, patient hands, she nestled quietly, drawing her knees to her chest, feeling alone but not lonely under the endless dome of night. On this particular evening, the night wind seemed to swirl with new energy, gentle but insistent, as though beckoning her to listen more closely. Lena closed her eyes and pressed her cheek to her blanket. She let herself slip into that gentle space between waking and sleep. And, as she had done so many times before, she dared to dream aloud. If there is a place where dreams can fly to and become real, she breathed, her voice barely a thread in the air, then please let me go. The world was still. For a heartbeat, nothing stirred. Then, so quickly that Lena doubted her waking senses, a sharp blue light pierced the darkness at the very tip of the horizon. Sometimes dreams were like that, popping into being at the edge of sight, fragile as dawn. But this light did not fade. Like a shooting star, but slower and softer, it arced gently downward, the glow gathering instead of dying as it fell. It hovered over the grass outside the village, then alighted so lightly atop her rooftop that not a single blade of thatch was disturbed. The brilliance shrank and shifted until finally, it shaped itself into the form of a tiny bird. The bird was like no other. Its feathers shimmered a glacial blue, radiant and yet cool, casting a pool of moonlight wherever it stepped. It did not chirp or flutter. Its music was silent and filled the heart, not the ear. As it walked forward, its feet traced small paths of light on the thatch, leaving a faint trail of hope in their wake. Though Lena's heart raced, she was not afraid. The bird paused before her, and in that hush, where speech was not needed nor would have sufficed, a feeling, both wordless and complete, spoke in her soul. I am the messenger from distant dreams. You have called, and I have come. A thrill of wonder answered in Lena's chest. She reached out instinctively, and the bird, with eyes like ancient jewels, extended a singular glowing feather. It hovered in the cool air. When her fingers brushed it, the feather's warmth sank inside her. A pulse of courage, a shimmer of believing. At once the world began to change. The cottage roof, the winding lanes, the comforting scatter of golden lights, all of these softened, like a watercolor painting touched by rain. Before Lena swelled a silent, swirling portal, a circle spun of light, wide and beckoning. Through its radiant ring, she glimpsed magnificent places where wild forests stretched further than she could imagine, where the ocean tossed jewels of foam upon hidden shores, and where countless stars painted new skies, each with a history yet unwritten. She hesitated on the edge, balancing between the known and the unknown. Lena glanced back at the village, the only home she had ever known, its hills and rooftops wreathed with sleep. Above it all, the night sky waited, timeless and true. With a soft promise, Lena whispered, "I will return carrying with me the dreams that have flown far away." She stepped forward, the world humming with expectation. She was not embarking on the sort of quest right out of storybooks, with monsters to defeat or treasures to snatch from darkness. Her journey was gentler, stranger, deeper, a journey into the heart of dreams themselves. She sensed she would be called to listen, to wonder, to seek the candor of wishes and the subtle strength of hope. As the portal's light wrapped around her, the bird of blue flame nestled close, a silent guardian and guide. The last thing she heard as the world changed was the whisper of the night wind, soft, sweet, and endlessly old, a benediction for travelers who dare to dream. In that moment, Lena's journey had truly begun, the journey to discover what only the bravest hearts could ever see, the delicate truth resting behind each star, and every gentle secret hidden inside the whisper of the night wind. Lena's first step into the sleeping forest was softer than shadow, lighter than thought. The light that had drawn her flickered ahead, its glow threading through the roots and ferns, illuminating only what wished to be seen. The forest itself seemed to slumber, but not in the way of emptiness. Here, the hush was alive with hidden thoughts, a lullaby woven from all that could not be said aloud. It was as if every leaf was holding its breath, waiting for secrets to rise and drift gently to the ground like feathers after a storm. She followed the bird of light deeper into this world of whispering darkness, where each tree was older than memory. The trunks soared up like ancient pillars, branching and bending beneath the weight of forgotten centuries. Between them, roots sprawled, threading and twisting above the earth, some as thick as Lena's own arms, blanketed in moss and tiny clinging fungi. There was no obvious path, but the bird wove a way forward, rising and swooping between beams of moonlight as if painting a trail only she could see. With every step, Lena's senses sharpened. The world behind, the one of cottages and lamps and spoken greetings, seemed impossibly distant. Here, silence had its own deep music, sensed in the bones more than heard, a quiet thrum, like the pulse of a dream not yet disturbed. The forest did not speak in voices, yet its language pressed in all around her. It was in the cautious gaze of a small deer who paused for her among the tree roots, eyes wide and ancient, holding an unspoken question that trembled between them. It was in the cloud of fireflies spinning near her head, shaping lantern-lit stories out of nothing but movement and glow. Their spirals seemed to tell of joy, of loss, of something waiting just beyond her grasp. Above her, the branches trembled and settled, offering a soft sigh that was both greeting and warning. Listen. Lena hesitated and breathed in, deep, steady, purposeful. The air was cool, perfumed with secrets, the loamy sweetness of earth, the sharp zest of growing shoots, and beneath it all, the echo of a sorrow she did not yet understand. She closed her eyes and tried to feel with every part of herself. Then, from somewhere in the thickness of trunks and shadow, came the softest of voices. Not from the lips of a creature, but from the slow heart of the forest itself. The oldest tree had begun to murmur, its bark rough beneath Lena's tentative fingers. "I was once a slender seed," intoned a resonant voice in her mind, "carrying nothing but hope for a sky I had never seen. Winds lifted me, wild and careless, dropping me here where the sun's face is only a dream caught in the cracks of my sleep." A flush of empathy warmed Lena's chest. She pressed her fingers against the bark, reaching out for the invisible bridge between them. Her own longing, her ache for lost sunlight, for people and places she could not return to, became a thread tying her to this ancient being. "But still you grew," she whispered into the wood. "You stretched new arms. And now you shelter stars and creatures you've never met." The wind answered for the tree, gentle and playful, rustling through the leaves. For the briefest moment, it sounded like laughter, a sound so soft that Lena wondered if she only imagined it. Yet for that instant, she knew she had been heard. She continued on, the pathless path, finding herself soon among a bed of purple buds that did not open, even as the moon laid a silver quilt across their faces. The flowers quivered at her approach, petals tight, voices smaller than the hush in her own heart. "We are afraid," they seemed to murmur, their doubts spilling out in waves that only one who had learned to listen could receive. Of light, of being seen, of blooming only to be overlooked, our courage lost in a world too busy for quiet things. Lena knelt, feeling the cold of the earth seep into her knees. She lifted a stray feather from where it had fallen, a remnant of the bird of light, and let its pale flame spread meekly over the cluster of buds. No blazing fire, only a warmth as gentle as breathing, promising safety. In that hush, the buds shivered, then one by one unfurled, trembling but unafraid, catching the moonlight in their petals and glowing for the first time. "Do not hide from your own hope," Lena sang softly, her words barely stirring the stillness. "Even the smallest bloom has a story the wind will remember. Someone is always listening." Around her, other silent voices began to uncoil. An ache, a need, a wish too fragile to say aloud. A spider wove through dewdrops, spinning a web of longing. A frog watched from its stone, eyes reflecting the moon and a sorrow older than rain. Even the stones at her feet, silent for centuries, trembled with heartbeats of memory. With every encounter, Lena could feel the unspoken gather within her. Old griefs, new questions, sweet and bitter truths, all the things she had kept folded away in her own heart. The silence of this forest was not emptiness, but the fullness of everything unsaid. She thought suddenly of her mother's empty chair, of her father's parting footsteps, of her grandmother's hands folded tightly when the world had been too big for comfort. Had they too carried a forest of unspoken words? As Lena wandered deeper, shapes of memory and meaning mingled in the mists, and she realized her own pain echoed with the hush of all that lived in this place. She was not alone. She was part of something vast and gentle that waited patiently for anyone willing to listen. At the forest's farthest edge, where moonlight pooled at the roots, Lena found an archway sculpted from entwined old branches and tangled roots. Before it, the bird of light awaited, now perched quietly on her shoulder. Its warmth was a promise, its silence nesting in the hollow of her collarbone, a weight and a comfort all at once. "You have learned the first lesson," came a whisper that resonated through her bones. "To hear what is not said aloud, to know what stirs behind silence. For only when you listen truly do you begin to touch your dreams." The archway awaited, opening to new mysteries just beyond its frame, but Lena did not rush. For a moment she stood. All the sounds and sadnesses and small joys of the sleeping forest gathered in her heart. Her unspoken words, and those of all around her, made her lighter as she stepped forward. She carried with her no answers, no grand revelations, only the certainty that listening, even in silence, was the beginning of everything. With each step through the threshold of ancient roots, Lena understood. The world speaks in countless voices, most too soft for ears alone. But now her heart was open, ready to hear. And so she walked on, awakened and brave, into the unknown forest of her own unfolding story. As Lena stepped through the twisted archway of roots, she left the hush of the forest behind. The wind, once tugging at her hair and whispering through the leaves, faded into silence. In its place, a new scent filled the night air. A thin, salty breath, both strange and familiar, brushing gently against her cheeks. She followed a narrow path that wound through thickets and moonlit grasses, until at last the trees parted, and ahead lay the silvery shore. The sand beneath her feet shimmered with 1,000 points of light, as if stars had spilled from the sky and settled here to rest. Each grain caught the moon's glow, glinting between her toes. Out beyond the shore, the sea waited, vast and perfectly still, its surface dark as midnight velvet. The water and the sky fused into an endless sweep, the horizon lost, erasing all edges. Lena listened and found the world was holding its breath. No tide broke upon the land. No foam traced the line of sand. Only a faint, far whisper brushed her ears, as though the ocean itself was dreaming and humming softly with some secret song. Above her, the bird of light circled. a small and radiant presence, its feathers flickering with gentle gold and pearl. It glided down, landing with gravity and grace on an enormous clamshell that rested at the lip of a quiet dock. The shell had been fashioned into a boat, a vessel so strange and beautiful that Lena stood spellbound. Its sail was gossamer, woven from mist itself, shimmering and half-seen. The ropes that held the sail glistened, luminous as starlight drawn into slender strands. The bird's voice was both music and meaning. "Come on," it called, eyes bright and encouraging. Great dreams often lie in places invisible to the eye. Drawn by certainty she did not understand, Lena climbed into the clamshell boat. The smooth, pearly shell curved beneath her, polished by countless tides. As her feet touched its heart, the entire boat shivered and seemed to breathe, as if awakening. Without oars, without wind, it slid away from the dock, gliding silently over the dark glass of the sea. They drifted deeper into the ocean's embrace, shore falling away into shadow. Everywhere was silence, not emptiness, but a living quiet that seemed full of possibility. Above and below, the sea and sky became one, a world without boundaries, without direction, as though Lena floated in the center of infinite dreaming. Stars wheeled overhead. Their reflections twinkled below, making the ocean look like a map of the heavens turned upside down. In that boundless night, Lena felt herself growing lighter, her worries melting away. The weight of questions, who she was, where she should go, what she must become, seemed to sink beneath the surface and vanish. There were no lights to guide her, no compass, not even the gentle lap of water against the hull. The boat moved with purpose known only to itself. Curiosity, quiet but persistent, stirred in her chest. "Where are we going?" she finally asked, her voice small in the great hush. The bird answered softly, "Nowhere, and that is why you will find the deepest." In this answer was a truth as strange and clear as moonlight. Lena let it settle in her heart, turning it over in her mind. But before she could puzzle further, a new sound rose up from the heart of the ocean. It began as a shiver, a deep and distant tremor, like the groan of the earth in winter, or thunder rolling beneath the sea. The sound grew and blossomed, deep and round and wondrous. Each note swelled, sorrowful and hopeful, slow as the turning of the stars. It was the song of the whale. Lena had never heard anything so powerful yet so delicate. The song had no words, and yet it spoke. It had no rhythm, and yet her very heartbeat tried to follow. Each long phrase unfurled stories. Stories of longing sighs, of ancient memories, of loves never quite confessed, and of silent patience that lingered through lifetimes. With every note, her heart both ached and opened wider, as if the song reached into places she'd never dared let herself feel. The bird quietly perched beside her. "They sing because they believe someone is listening," it murmured. "Even when they don't see anyone, even when they cannot know for sure, still, they sing." Lena closed her eyes, surrendering to the music. The whale's song poured into her, seeping through every breath, every thought. She felt a strange comfort in the depth of that sound, a message older than words. A gentle certainty began to form within her, like an ember catching light. Trust. Trust that the boat, though it had no rudder, would carry her where she needed to go. Trust that there are truths too deep for the eye, and that what is most real need not always be seen. Suddenly, from beneath the shining surface, a shape emerged, enormous and graceful, cloaked in the blue of the night. Rising from the fathoms below, the whale arched alongside the boat. Its eyes glistened, black and endless as the sky, vast windows of mystery. For a moment, Lena met the whale's gaze. In that shared silence, she saw not a creature alien and apart, but a soul much like her own. Carrying loneliness, longing, the ache of distance, the weight of dreams waiting to be sung, the whale's mouth opened in a slow curve. No words came, but once more it lifted its call, shaping a melody to wrap itself around Lena's heart alone. A gift, a benediction, a song that belonged to her. And in that moment, Lena understood. "You don't need to know for sure how things will turn out," she breathed, her words barely disturbing the air. "Just keep your heart open and move on." As Lena spoke, the ocean began to stir. Where before it had seemed gray and endless, colors woke within its depths. Violet bloomed along the crests of gentle waves. Indigo bled into emerald, and in the distance, a ribbon of pure gold appeared, pulling the eye toward the edge of the world. The boat, sensing the change, gathered speed, moving not just with grace but with joy, splashing up droplets that glittered in the growing light. The bird tilted its head, proud and pleased. "Now you know," it said quietly. "Dreams don't need a reason to exist. They just need faith to grow." With the whale's song echoing all around, the clamshell boat plunged toward the golden dawn. Lena, heart open, spirit light, carried the gift of song inside her, a melody for all who believed. The song soared across the waves and sky, a beacon for every dreamer. A promise that even in the deep, distant dark, dreams would always find their way home. The dreamboat had drifted through a sea of shimmering gold, cradled by an endless glow, until, without warning, the world beneath Lena's feet disappeared. Gone was the comforting sway of water. There was no choppy ocean, no islands of green and brown, nor horizon in sight. Instead, she was surrounded by a boundless ocean of clouds. Billows of white rolled and stretched on forever, resembling a vast celestial quilt, gently swaddling the sky itself. Awestruck, Lena raised her head. High above, towers made of transparent crystal floated effortlessly in the sunlight, their walls shimmering with all the colors of dawn. They wove the outline of a city that defied all logic, a city suspended not upon earth nor sea, but on faith in the impossible. Golden light glinted off spires and airy bridges, each structure gliding tranquilly over the cloud sea. Slowly, gracefully, the dreamboat came to rest beside a dock made of the thickest, softest cloud. There the vessel seemed to anchor itself with invisible ropes of wind and hope. Lena hesitated only a moment before stepping out. To her amazement, the cloud beneath her was solid, stone-like yet gentle under her feet. Each step she took across its pillowy surface sent up a delicate chorus of tinkling notes, as if hidden chimes marked her arrival. "Welcome to Miralume, the city of dreams taking shape," called the light bird Odd, its voice rippling through the air, bright and clear. The words seemed to dance around her like dandelion seeds carried by a breeze. Lena's eyes grew wide as she took in the astonishing spectacle surrounding her. Along every floating thoroughfare and suspended plaza, people painted magnificent visions, not with brush and canvas, but with their bare hands. With graceful gestures, they drew glowing images into the air. Every sweep and sweep conjured wonders out of nothing. Luminous gardens where pianos blossomed instead of flowers. Winged cars darting like butterflies. Even the vision of a cat lying dreamily, casting starlight from its whiskers. These radiant sketches shimmered, sending soft warmth through the cloud streets as if their very existence breathed life and hope into the world. As she gazed, an old man approached, his hair as long and silver as trailing clouds. His shirt bore a living map of glimmering constellations, each star shifting gently as he moved. He regarded Lena with wise, serene eyes. "I am Oreen, the star painter," he introduced himself. His voice was gentle, like a memory whispered at night. Lena nodded shyly and found herself following Oreen to a spacious clearing formed of denser, whiter cloud. It felt like standing inside a bubble of silence, suspended high above the bustle below. There Oreen stopped and gestured towards the blank expanse of air before them. "Draw," he urged, "but not with your hands, Lena, not only with your eyes. Draw with your heart." Lena hesitated, looking at her empty hands, then at the endless white, unsure what to do or even how. She frowned, searching for any hint of inspiration. For a moment, nothing happened at all. No image, no idea, only the deep quiet brought by standing in such a place, so far from all she had known. Finally, she closed her eyes, banishing the pressure of expectation. She let her thoughts slow and drift, softly, like clouds themselves. Into her mind came a memory. Her grandmother, the voice that had whispered hundreds of stories into the dark, and the attic that held secret treasures and the scent of old paper. She recalled the trembling hush of forests at midnight, the mournful song of whales rolling through her dreams. Most of all, she remembered the feeling, a pang of longing, and the safe embrace of love. Suddenly, Lena felt warmth spreading from her chest and down her arms. Light, glowing and gentle, began to pour from her fingertips. She dared to open her eyes and gasped. Hanging in the air before her was a shape taking form. First, a familiar wooden roof appeared, sloping gently, covered in velvety moss. Then a curving archway, just as she remembered it. From a tiny chimney, a stream of golden stars puffed out into the sky. In the garden, a cat, her own dear cat, stretched in a morning yawn, looking blissfully content. Behind it all, the sky unfurled, vast and brimming with the night's heavy blue, folding dreams into the eyes of those who slept. Oren smiled, the map of stars on his shirt glowing brighter. "I see now," he murmured. "You paint with memory, with love, with the dream that never faded." Embarrassed and amazed, Lena looked at her creation. It glimmered, bright yet soft, a living painting that seemed to pulse with feeling. It was more than an image. It was laughter and longing and comfort shaped into light. Oren reached out, letting his fingers drift through the vision without disturbing it. "And if you wish," he told her, "this dream can one day come true, if enough people believe in it, together with you." As twilight settled over the Cloud City, Lena was invited to rest in a house of dreams. The walls glowed with gentle hues, and above her, through the open ceiling, lay the real sky. Stars burned close enough to touch. Every glittering spark was a promise of a dream not yet realized. Lena lay quiet, listening to the breath of the Cloud City, the faint ringing of chimes, and Oren's voice returned, echoing in the drifting wind. The world needs not only those who dare to dream, but those who dare to draw that dream so others may see. It is the painted dream that begins the journey from wish to reality. With these words humming in her heart, Lena let her eyes close. As sleep took her, she found herself soaring, flying high above forgotten lands, weaving in and out of ribbons of light, a part of the city among the clouds. She drifted, weightless, across a sky not yet given a name, led onward by the dreams of the world. In her hands, glimmering still, was that first small hope made visible. A dream drawn for all to see, shining in the infinite sky. Morning in the city. Above the clouds is unlike any morning anywhere else in the world. Instead of the burning reveal of sunlight or the cheerful chaos of waking animals, each new day arrives softly, as if the whole city is wrapped within the slow inhale and exhale of a dream. The light comes not in a flood, but in whispers, threading through the cloud-woven streets, coloring everything with its quiet promise. And as that promise grows, it gently nudges the hearts of every dreamer awake, lighting within them a lantern of hope and possibility. Lena awoke to that gentle illumination, surrounded by the sweet, ephemeral scent of skyflowers, blooms that lasted only as long as a dream and filled a room with their shifting colors and memories. The bird of light, that mysterious companion on her journey, perched at the head of her bed. Its eyes were deep and calm, ageless with wisdom, as if it had seen every hope and sorrow the city had ever known. "It is time," the bird spoke in a voice softer than the clouds, yet clearer than any morning bell. "Dreams are not meant to be locked away, hidden inside where only you can see them. They are meant to be carried forth, to be planted in hearts still waiting. Let them bloom in the wide world, Lena." A sense of longing pressed gently against Lena's chest. Not sadness, but a bittersweet gratitude for all she had seen and learned. She stepped outside, back into the city's dazzling, dissolving light. Buildings and bridges, once as solid as memory, now shimmered. Like brushstrokes in water, the city began to fade, its boundaries trickling away with the morning. Everywhere she turned, dreams skimmed the air, paintings of light transformed into glittering birds, spiraling upward to seed the sky, becoming new constellations, gifts for those who gazed up in wonder from far below. On the edge of the city, Oren waited for her. His smile was both proud and wistful, his eyes glistening like morning dew. "You'll carry this city with you," he said quietly. "Whenever you long for wonder, whenever you find yourself searching for something beyond the ordinary, remember. Wherever dreamers gather, a new city of dreams is built. You'll find it again, in others, in yourself. The clamshell boat, elegant and silent, skimmed to Lena's side. This time there was no swirling mist or roaring wind, only a velvet softness, the hush of clouds parting gently before her. As she stepped aboard, the city unfolded behind her, slipping quietly into myth until only a hint of color and music lingered in the air. Lena closed her eyes and, for a long heartbeat, felt nothing but the gentle rocking of the boat and the soft embrace of dreams. Then she opened her eyes again. She was back in her attic bedroom, the familiar shapes of her lamp, quilt, and open book returning with the hush of midnight. For a moment, she wondered if it had all been imagining, just a wild, beautiful dream. But something inside had shifted. She breathed out, and it was as if she glowed from within. Outside, the world was as silent and steeped in shadow as ever. But now Lena listened differently. She heard the secret songs of the wind. She caught the quiet sighs of the trees. And somewhere almost too far away to name, she heard the memory of whale songs rising, reaching for distant stars. And beyond that, the faintest shimmer of the city above the clouds, still glowing. Lena wanted so much to tell someone everything, but she knew not all magic could be captured in words. Still, she let the dream flow through her in quiet, extraordinary ways. She began sketching on her ceiling with the light from her desk lamp, tracing the luminous trails of the city she once traversed, hoping her pictures might one day ignite someone else's imagination. She spun tales for younger children, stories about cities that floated above the sky or birds woven from starlight. Some children laughed, but some listened, their eyes wide, hungry for magic, believing just enough to dream for themselves. Sometimes Lena wrote letters to the wind, tiny scraps of hope or longing folded into paper, cast out her attic window with no expectation of reply. But always, somewhere in the night, she felt the sky open a little more, as if the city above was listening, waiting, watching. And then, one evening, the world sent her an answer. A little boy from the end of the village, quiet, shy, his eyes always searching the shadows, came knocking at Lena's door. In his hands, he carried an ordinary glass jar which now fizzed and popped with tiny specks of brilliant light, as if he'd caught a handful of wishes. "Sister," he whispered, voice wavering with awe, "I saw a bird of light fly past my window. It didn't speak, but I felt like it wanted me to follow, or maybe to dream." Lena looked at the boy and at the jar of hope in his hands. She wasn't surprised. The dream she planted had blossomed in him, just as it had once grown in her. "Then whisper your dream into the jar," she told him, her eyes shining. "You never know. If you're brave, if you believe, perhaps you will fly too." She watched as the boy squeezed his eyes shut and pressed his lips to the rim of the jar, whispering secrets into the shimmer. When he opened his eyes, Lena smiled, for she could see, however faintly, the shape of a new dream taking flight above his head. In the nights that followed, Lena continued to send out her small, quiet miracles. She drew, she wrote, she encouraged everyone, especially those too scared to hope, too tired to dream. And each act, though tiny as a single flame, lit another lantern in the dark. There was no sudden transformation, no thunderous applause, no city rising from the clouds for all to see. But Lena understood now. Some journeys end not with spectacle, but with a tender, unseen light taking root in another's heart. Perhaps this was the greatest miracle, to know that a single dream, bravely shared, can cast a glow wide enough to light the world, one heart at a time. Thank you everyone for your interest. Please like and subscribe to the channel to receive notifications of more stories.